We want to talk about this even further with some people who report on this each and every day, including Christine Moy at Politico and our friend, tech policy analyst John Swartz. You guys, thanks for being with us today. And I just want to read from Christine's piece here. You say, and you report that in the ruling, the court sided with lawmakers and the DOJ that had said TikTok was a national security threat. In particular, lawmakers had warned that Chinese authorities could force ByteDance to hand over Americans' data or manipulate its algorithm to promote Beijing's interests. That has been the main primary concern all along here. Christine, first to you, though. What if you have TikTok on your phone already? Come January 19th, can you still use it? Will it work? Do you have to delete it, or don't we know?
So come January 19th, TikTok will not disappear off your phone if you have it already. How the law works is that it is enforced against the app stores. So companies like Google and Apple will face, potentially billion-dollar fines if they don't take TikTok off its platform. What that means for you, though, is that if you already have TikTok on your phone, it'll still work, and it's expected to continue for you to work for the next, couple months probably. But new users won't be able to download the app, and eventually it won't be able to update, which will kind of doom the app to a slow death.
Okay, John, I wanted to ask too, so it seems like this is just for, new downloads. Users won't be able to find it on some of these app stores on their phones here. But there's this caveat, and TikTok is wrestling with this part of the equation here. What if a company here in the United States buys it? Are any bids on the table? Because if that happens, if ByteDance divests TikTok and it is purchased by some U.S. subsidiary, what have you, it survives, right? All right, looks like, John, we don't have your audio, unfortunately. Christine, do you want to take that question? Maybe, John, you're muted.
Yeah, I can take that question.
Sure.
There are a couple, businessmen who have indicated previously that they're interested in purchasing TikTok. One of them is Trump's own former Treasury Secretary, Steven Mnuchin. He said as recently as the spring, he would like to put together a bid. Today, we caught up with billionaire Frank McCourt. He confirmed he's been assembling, and now he has assembled a group that wants to move forward with a people's bid to buy TikTok. Specifically, they're interested in TikTok even without its algorithm. So this has been a bit of a sticking point because Chinese law prevents TikTok's algorithm from being exported out of the country. But the big question is, will ByteDance ultimately let them? Because the company has also said previously that divestiture for them would be impossible. Too technically and commercially complicated.
John, do we have you here?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It diverted to mute. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, it's interesting. We were just talking about the possibility. I mean, this is just like such a valued commodity, right? I mean, it's the popular go-to app for the younger generation. My son, for instance, who's 24 years old, swears by it religiously. So if there is a will, there is a way. The thing that always interests me about this and the connection to China is a total unpredictability of what's going to happen. There's so many other factors in play here involving the Trump administration in China. We've got this January 19th date. We've got the onus of the tariffs hanging over our heads. We've got these recent disclosures in a congressional hearing about something called Salt Typhoon, which is a breach of the telecom's data sources. There's something called Volt Typhoon, which is an attack or an exploration of attacking U.S. critical infrastructure that emanated through China, evidently. So we've got all these kind of factors in play, which kind of plays into this hostility between the two countries on the tech side. And what to me is even more interesting is where we find the tech companies in the middle, like big tech companies, because they're so dependent on mainland China and that region for their revenue.
Obviously, we have an incoming Trump administration on the horizon in just weeks here, and maybe there's some reporting out there to suggest, what may have led to this change of mind for Donald Trump when it comes to TikTok, because in the first Trump administration, that is when this idea of a ban first gained traction, and this was highly sought after by members of the Trump administration, Trump himself. In an interview today on Fox with Larry Kudlow, Trump's incoming national security advisor, Michael Waltz. He said this about Trump. He wants to save TikTok. We absolutely need to allow the American people to have access to that app, but we have to protect our data as well here. Christine, is there any reporting out there to suggest why the about face by Trump?
I mean, that's the big question, right? Is Trump going to throw TikTok a lifeline? There's been reporting in the past about why he flip-flopped. Like you mentioned, he's the one who first pursued a ban against TikTok in 2020. One of his former top advisors, Kellyanne Conway, now advises for TikTok, and there's reporting about why he specifically flip-flopped when Congress was first debating the bill that Jeffrey Yoss, one of his donors, also has a stake in TikTok, a financial stake in TikTok. But Trump hasn't said anything on this topic. The ruling came out today. Yesterday was the day. Today was the requested date by which both sides had requested a ruling. And yesterday, Trump actually posted some of his statistics showing how good his account's performance has been on the platform. Today, he hasn't said anything. We've reached out to his transition team, haven't gotten anything new on his plans. But, it's important to note that Trump isn't the only party here, right? There's also Congress, which fast-tracked this law. They felt very strongly about it. And all week I've been talking to Republican lawmakers who say that, if Trump dislikes the law, he needs to go through them.
John, I wanted to ask you, do you think ByteDance has been in good faith here with their arguments about why TikTok, should survive, should not be sold off, should not be banned? They kind of chalk this all up to a free speech issue. A TikTok spokesperson there, John and Christine, with this statement saying the Supreme Court has an established historical record of protecting Americans' right to free speech, and we expect they will do just that on this important constitutional issue. Unfortunately, the TikTok ban was conceived and pushed through based upon inaccurate, flawed, and hypothetical information, resulting in outright censorship of the American people. The TikTok ban, unless stopped, will silence the voices of over 170 million Americans here in the U.S. and around the world on January 19, 2025. So TikTok says it's about free speech. Lawmakers on Capitol Hill say it's about Chinese national security threats, John.
Yeah, that was the same argument. I remember the congressional hearing where the executives from ByteDance were making the same argument to no avail, as it seems. You think about, too, looking at this through a political lens, and in terms of Trump, I have no idea what goes on through his mind, but his motivations at times, in a sense, he was against TikTok. And then perhaps he benefited from it during this election cycle. Same thing, and maybe his viewpoints about social media, including X, may have changed over time through talking to Musk. It's very interesting. This whole social media platform and the approach that the administration is going to take. For instance, I'll just throw out the FCC nominee Brendan Carr has sent mixed messages of what he wants to do. But one of the things he wants to perhaps do is repeal Section 230, which was protecting social media companies through third-party content. It's kind of a carrot and stick situation to me, in a sense, right? Putting people in line or getting them in line through threats and then through cajoling them. So that's why there's so much unpredictability to this. But I can't imagine an app of this size and magnitude and influence just disappearing. I'm sure there will be a way, or perhaps a third party, to make a play for it.
Okay, just lastly, let's make predictions. What happens from now until January 19th? Christine, you first.
Well, the immediate next thing that TikTok needs to do is actually file an official appeal. Like you mentioned, it signaled that it will, but it needs to do that. And then the Supreme Court needs to decide whether it will take it up. And everyone I talked to today expects, it is likely to.
Oh.
And then the big question then is, do the justices pause the law while they consider the case? Because if not, TikTok will be banned while they're still, deciding whether to take it up. And the assumption is also that they will do so. So okay. I don't think before Trump comes in, at least TikTok, will be banned before he has the time to act.
All right. And John, do you think it'll get sold?
I do, actually. Stranger things have happened. I didn't think Musk would buy Twitter. And how wrong was I about that? So anything could happen.
That's the thing about predictions. They can be wrong. Christine, John, thanks so much for your time. Talk soon. Have a good weekend.
You too.
You too.